Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.
Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Wait For It podcast YouTube page. My name is Phil Smith, aka Phil the Filipino, and of course, joining me, adjusting and having trouble adjusting his chair, there is your other co-host, Mr. Eric Almighty. And Eric, we are here with our prolonged review of Hawkeye. Of course, it took some time. I, of course, had a family emergency, and just things have been pushed back more and more. But we finally get a chance to sit down and talk about this show. A little bit of odd timing, so I don't know how many, live viewers or reactions we're going to have. But if there are any of you, of course, feel free to drop in some questions. But Eric, you know what? I'm excited to end the year with a bang and talk about the latest Disney Plus MCU show.
Yeah, I'm excited as well. And, the thing about it is with this particular show, it's not that it wasn't good. And I think you guys will maybe see that reflected in our score. But it's like the end of the year. We took a break. Like, I'm going to be honest, getting up to do this live stream, we almost just canceled it. But we did promise you guys a review of Hawkeye, and we want to deliver. We want to deliver on that. So I'm excited to get into this pretty short live stream review. So by all means, if you're with us, please engage with us. Otherwise, we're going to kind of get straight to it in this spoiler discussion of Hawkeye.
Yeah, exactly. So as mentioned, as you can see in the title as well, this will be a full spoiler discussion. Of course, the show ended a little bit over a week ago, maybe 2 weeks now at this point. I'm not 100% sure. The last couple of weeks have just all kind of blended together with the holidays and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, Eric, for any of the people that are coming back to watch this episode, watch this live stream, let them know how our reviews typically go.
So even in the spoiler fashion, we are going to be talking about likes, dislikes, and then we're going to be jumping into our final thoughts and overall grades of the actual show. So we're going to have a pretty simple format here for you guys, as per usual. And again, this is going to be full spoilers that we are discussing. So please make sure if you have not watched this show, get out of here, come back after you've watched it.
Or if you don't care, stay. Whatever. Live your life.
That's true. That's true too. We do have people that do that.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it here. We'll start with the positives. Now, Eric, I'll be honest with you, and you know this, and I'll let everybody else watching know, I wasn't really anticipating or looking forward to Hawkeye at all, especially when you look at the rest of the shows that we got. Now, if you've seen the rest of our live streams or reviews, you know that it's been a little bit of an up and down ride with the Marvel shows on Disney Plus, and honestly, it's been mostly downs as far as how Eric and I have felt about it. So coming into Hawkeye, a character that didn't really necessarily care about, little apprehensive. Eric can speak to that too. But as he said, there were times where I was very, very much enjoying myself, and honestly, I wouldn't have enjoyed myself so much if it wasn't for Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop. If they had miscast, or if they had just, if Haley wasn't able to hold up her end of the deal, which I should have known, of course, with her other work in, Into the Spider-Verse and all that kind of stuff. But if it wasn't for her, Eric, this would have been, definitely a much less enjoyable experience for me. So we got to shout out one of the newest additions to the MCU, which is going to be Kate Bishop. I'm excited to see more from her.
Yeah, and of course, being as unprepared as we are for this live stream, I wanted to make sure to pull up the characters and the actresses' names. I definitely appreciated a lot of new characters. Tony Dalton playing Jack was very, very entertaining, very, very funny. So, of course, Haley Steinfeld is the standout. I personally like Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye. I really appreciated what he brought to the table this go-around, and the way they really focused on Hawkeye not being a superhero that really is superhuman or have special abilities. Like, I really like that they played into that, especially with the hearing aid and him kind of learning the basic sign language. That was a nice little touch. I liked a lot of the new characters, not all of them, definitely not all of them, but a recurring character I did want to shout out here was, of course, Florence Pugh, who does play Yelena. She was standout. Her and Haley Steinfeld, Kate Bishop, are so good together. I can't wait to see them pair up again. So if I have to pick a new standout, a character that at least showed up in the show, not a new character, definitely Yelena being a standout for sure.
Yeah, she's great. Obviously, one of the bright spots of Black Widow. And, I'll bring this up again in my final thoughts here, Eric. This did remind me a lot of Black Widow because it surprised me in some ways, but also it was kind of like what I expected at the same time. So, but yeah, knowing she was going to show up, it was spoiled, of course, as far as what episode, because I was just again, not watching this week to week. I mean, with the holidays and us just, being in a whirlwind for this month, I was not keeping up with the show like I normally did a week to week with the earlier MCU shows. And, I'll talk about that here on the opposite side when we talk about opportunities or dislikes here, Eric. What else did you want to point out here? I liked the Christmas setting. A lot of people point to Iron Man 3 as being Marvel's first Christmas movie. And First off, let's go ahead and disregard Iron Man 3 whenever we possibly can, because it's a horrible and terrible experience. And Eric and I will fight you on that to the very end. And maybe you'll hear us talk about that more in a very special new series we're going to be debuting here in the podcast in 2022. So a little bit of a teaser for you there. But I did like the Christmas setting. I thought it was I thought the backdrop was really, really cool. And, a lot of people were wondering if it had any ties to No Way Home, which ended up not happening for the most part. But I like the Christmas setting. I like the Home Alone-esque, montages, or the Home Alone-esque tributes that we saw, like kind of, drizzled in from here every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, the humor was, always with MCU projects is hit or miss. I thought for the most part they did a really good job. Another character I wanted to shout out was, obviously, since we're talking spoilers, was Vincent D'onofrio coming back as Kingpin. Fantastic, didn't miss a beat. Loved what he brought to the table. There are some things we're going to talk about on the other side of things if they come to pass. But overall, I really appreciated it. Now, I know this is a good maybe Phil segue into dislikes, because I personally enjoyed Save the City. I didn't think they needed to make it the end credit. I think that was not necessary, because I think they're like, oh, you guys probably like this. You want to see the whole thing uninterrupted? That wasn't really, I was expecting someone to show up in the crowd. So as a segue to dislikes, because I know you did not like that song. I mean, again, I just enjoyed it. It was somewhat catchy. It is what it is. Like, I don't know.
It's terrible. So it's the lyrics are corny. I mean, and I get they're supposed to be corny, but yeah, like you said, I think maybe it was just elevated by the fact that I sat through the whole thing as the end credit scene in the series season finale. And again, like you said, it would have been better if they like panned into the crowd and you saw Yelena like sitting there because she was like touring the city or something like that. Like that's all it would have taken to at least redeem itself a little bit. But no, I didn't like the. I did not need to see the whole thing, and I was pretty irritated. I sat through the whole thing expecting something else to happen. But yeah, that's again, it's gonna come off like we hated this, or that I hated this a lot more than what my score will represent. But again, if it wasn't for Kate and Yelena and Vincent D'Onofrio, then as Kingpin, then this wouldn't have had much to offer me whatsoever. Like, yes, Jack was a nice little revelation there, kind of wondering about him the whole time when he just turned out to be kind of an idiot, so who just really wanted to use swords. Eric, what did you think of like Hawkeye's, ragtag group of LARPers?
I thought that was a fun aspect of it, actually. I think the downfall with this show was the fact that it was only 6 episodes. Like, I definitely feel like we needed to flesh out some characters. There were some characters and some beats that didn't work. The whole thing with like the role playing with the firefighters and the police officers, like that was cool. I liked how that tied into the overall story. Sure, was it corny? Yes, but you kind of expect that out of a show like this. I wanted to highlight 2 characters that didn't quite work for me, and one of them is kind of concerning given the future of the MCU and the announcements that have been made. So the first one is Eleanor Bishop, who was played by Vera Farmiga. I don't know if that's how you say it. I know she's very, very well known in a lot of movies and show, it says The Departed, The Orphan. I'm sure there's a bigger movie out there that she's known for. She's a very highly acclaimed actress. She's great in most stuff. Was not good in this. As Kate's mother, annoyed the hell out of me every time she was on screen. Did not like her. And the other character I wanted to highlight was Maya Lopez, who was played by I'm not even going to try to pronounce her name, but she was really
Alakwa Cox. Alakwa.
There we
just
go.
Enunciate, Eric. Just enunciate. Use your context clues. Got it.
It's not a speech impediment. Deep cut there. So yeah, I'm sorry. That's how much I really don't even really want to talk about her character, because her character is apparently going to be Echo in the comics, which I guess she's getting her own show. And if that's the case, I didn't really get a lot from that character. Like, she had this whole side thing about the revenge for her father that was somewhat interesting and then got less interesting as we went on. One of the things that threw me off, and maybe I'm misremembering the season finale, but she was like getting ready to get revenge and she looks normal, and then she comes up dolled up in like makeup and lipstick. I thought that was really odd, a really odd like visual choice. So it was just like stuff like that didn't work for me with that character. I don't know how you felt, but that was a big miss for me. And out of those two, the latter being the bigger one.
Yeah, and also with speaking on Maya, who you said is going to come back as in the Echo series, there was this whole dynamic between her and Kazi, and they talk about, especially in the finale, they build up how Maya and her dad and Kazi were like this trio, but we never got any indication that they were in any type of like flashbacks or anything. So it was like, okay, so we're just supposed to accept the fact that the three of them were like this group, but all we see of them is that one picture in Maya's apartment of them together. And I guess we're supposed to just take from that, oh, these three have had a relationship. But nope, Kazi and Maya just, fight off to the side. There's like three individual fights going on in the finale. There was, Kate versus Kingpin, and then there's Yelena versus Clint, and then there's Kazi versus Maya, all happening within maybe like 100 yards of each other, just separately going on. And it was just like, I don't know. I guess I probably should have mentioned this in the the likes part. I did like seeing all the different trick arrows in the finale as well. That's really cool. That's the only thing Hawkeye has to offer. So like, why not? Why'd you wait so long to use all the different arrows?
There was a lot of those things. Again, pacing in the show for it being 6 episodes was a little bit of a downer. Phil, you mentioned like the first 2 episodes up until like the third one, you weren't even interested in the show. Like, if it wasn't an MCU show, you would have dropped it.
And I'll talk about that in my final thoughts. Yeah, I just had no desire to keep up with it week to week. And again, as you kind of see with our attitude with handling this live stream, that's apparent here, So yeah, man, and the thing is, it's not going to slow down. And like, we have to keep up with these. Like, imagine, like, for those of you, of course, who have seen now the Doctor Strange trailer, they reference, of course, WandaVision right there in the trailer. So it's like, you better be attention or you're gonna miss something, like.
That's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is he was like, hey, remember that show? We don't give a shit about it in this movie. Right. I'm here about something else. So I mean, it could work both ways. So far, I think there hasn't been anything crucial. Probably Loki with Kang will be which is sad to see that, given how terrible of a show that is. I enjoyed this much more than Loki. I enjoyed this much more than a couple shows. Maybe not much more than Loki, but around the same as I did other shows. It definitely doesn't hit the peaks of WandaVision. And again, it's because it's not that interesting. It's kind of a simple story. And if we really wanted to go down further down the negative rabbit hole, I mean, there are definitely issues with Kate Bishop's character and introduction. She's not really introduced as a likable character. It's with her charm and acting that she really kind of pulls through. But she gets introduced like she has this dead father thing that never comes back into play. She's just this rich girl who knows how to shoot arrows. Like, that presentation is not very good. And she just happens to stumble upon the Ronin outfit. That's not really a good introduction. But luckily, first impressions weren't everything with Kate Bishop. Again, Haley Steinfeld was amazing. I just don't know. Something was missing in the show. It had a lot of cool elements, but like most Marvel shows, it just didn't hit the mark. And I think that's starting to become a theme. Unlike the movies, which again are pretty much either real hits or real misses, and they're normally real hits. I mean, minus Eternals, we loved every Marvel movie that came out this year.
Yeah, what's missing, Eric, is 2 episodes from all these Marvel shows. What's missing
is
2 more episodes. Just make it 8. Why do you keep doing this and telling this story within 6 episodes and not only cramming in what's happening in present day, but then cramming in backstory and hey, Laura Barton was in Shield, like all that kind of stuff that they just keep cramming in when you have time. Like, I don't know why the orders are so short. You're playing with Marvel and Disney money. Just give us 2 more episodes. And that's a good point about Kate, Eric. Like, she was just an archer that wanted to be a superhero. But like, did she really deserve to be a superhero if she hadn't met Clint? No, she would have just been an archer and hated her job at like her mom's security company, who, like you said, yeah, Eleanor added nothing to this really. Her lines were basically the same from beginning to end. I don't think she ever had any character growth ever.
No, and like she didn't even seem that evil at the end either. She just seemed like a dumb mom. Oh, it's gonna be okay, honey. It's gonna be okay.
I think I did read she was supposed to die, and then they changed it. So I don't know. Maybe that's
Death wouldn't have done much either, honestly. So it doesn't really matter either way. Again, this show has a lot of things to it. We could probably go longer, but Phil, I haven't seen anybody come in the comments yet. Like I said, we did a quick live stream just to end the year. We're definitely going to continue to bring some more of these. So if you're catching this after the fact, obviously if you're watching this, you probably are. A lot more to come in 2022 across the podcast. So Phil, I'm ready to get into final thoughts and grades if you are, and I'll let you go first if you want.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. I'll give you guys some scores across the Rotten Tomato verse and other places as well. Rotten Tomatoes, a 92% average tomato score, so certified fresh. For critics, 90% audience score. So people are resonating with this and enjoying the show. So and that's great. I'm glad people are enjoying this. It just necessarily wasn't for me, and from the sounds of it, it wasn't necessarily for Eric either. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, IGN as a whole gave it a 8 out of 10 for the full season, and then currently on IMDb, as far as its user score, we have a 7.8 out of 10 as far as how people feel. People that are actually watching this. Now, for me, as far as my review, Hawkeye sends the MCU into another direction of fatigue as they continue to pump out these shows that we are now basically required to keep up with in order to fully understand what's happening in the movies. MCU experiences were special and unique because they were events that were spread out and anticipated. You have to wait months for them. And it's now starting to feel a bit like a chore, to be honest with you. And there's no signs of slowing down anytime soon, like I mentioned. And I guess this is just the life of an MCU fan at this point, specifically podcasters. All of us are going to have to be keeping up with this. Hawkeye introduces some really great new players. It reminded me of Black Widow, like I said earlier in the year, in which I cared way more about the other characters than the quote-unquote main character. Haley Steinfeld as Kate Bishop, great. Can't wait to see her interact with the likes of like Scott Lang and Shang-Chi. I think that's going to be really cool. Florence Pugh, of course, continues to be a standout in her limited time. And then the biggest reveal of the return of Vincent D'onofrio has huge implications going forward. But again, I wasn't ever clamoring for this show. Like WandaVision, absolutely. Falcon and Winter Soldier, sign me up. Loki, hell yeah. Hawkeye, and we'll see what else is on. Maybe if I do ever watch this again, it'll only be in short clips, like when Yelena and Kate interact in Kate's apartment. Probably one of the best scenes in the entire show. But everything else I've honestly pretty much already forgotten. Hawkeye gets a 6 out of 10 for me, but it could be lower if not for the rest of the cast.
That's pretty solid. For me, guys, I didn't come up with much to say on this show, which should tell you a lot. Again, we wanted to get this out of the way, and that's kind of how my viewing experience was, especially for the first half. Now, the second half of the show definitely picks up very, very well, and it is because of the supporting characters. Ultimately, this show should have been the Kate Bishop show, or whatever her superhero name is going to end up being. Whether it is Hawkeye, Lady Hawkeye, something like that comes from the comics. I don't know what that's going to be, but this show was kind of misled to be the Jeremy Renner show, and that's not what we got. If anything, he's really much in the backdrop until about the middle of the show, and then once they kind of split even screen time and even story beats, that's when the show really starts to pick up. Again, a poor first impression for sure, and kind of a poor last impression, especially if they go the route with Kingpin that they alluded to, although if you're going off the comics, there's still hope to see him in future projects. with that being said, this show had a lot of ups, a lot of downs. And I think that because of a strong second half, it had more ups than downs. So I'm actually going to give this a 6.5 out of 10. And it's only because, if I remember correctly, Phil, I believe 6 is around where I've been grading MCU shows not named WandaVision or Loki. So because of that, I wanted to definitely give it its props, because I definitely kind of enjoyed this more than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just for the upbeatness, and it wasn't so like, I don't know, it just wasn't so down on itself, and it wasn't, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but I liked it more than Falcon and the Winter Soldier, just by a smidge, and maybe just equal footing.
Yeah, that's fair. That's certainly fair. It's yeah, I of course, and then I'll ask you a question here in a moment to rank them just as we close out the year. But yeah, that is it did make it an easier watch at times than Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And yeah, the thing with this, the problem here is we have the highs of WandaVision, right? And then everything else is way behind it. And that's the thing. Like, you should have some parity in there. Like, the best Marvel movie and the middle of the road Marvel movie isn't really that far off. Those middle of the road Marvel movies, you could have added a couple things that would have made them great. But as far as the shows, there's just so much missing because of this limited time frame that we're working with. It's like they're gonna have to make up that difference somewhere in these shows going forward. But I mean, honestly, you just heard the Rotten Tomato scores. People are responding to them pretty positively. So maybe we're just gonna hate these. Maybe that's just what it's going to be. I don't know. We haven't really thought about that. So, Eric, to wrap up this episode, I'll just ask you just that. You kind of did it already. So how are we ranking these Disney Plus Marvel shows as we close out the year 2021 and look forward to all the rest of the stuff they're doing?
So let me make sure I've got them all down. WandaVision, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Loki, What If, and Hawkeye. Those are the 5?
Yep.
So that one's going to be pretty easy. So I would definitely put WandaVision first. By default, and by a very small margin, Hawkeye would be 2. Falcon and the Winter Soldier would be 3. What If would clearly be 4. And if I could possibly put nothing at 5 and put Loki at 6, I would.
Yeah, if you guys haven't listened to our end of the year awards, Loki might be talked about over there. So you guys should check that out. Yeah, it's pretty similar for me. Yeah, WandaVision above and beyond 1A, 1B, 1C, however distance I can put between WandaVision and the rest of them.
It's so crazy to think
Number
about it.
2 would be Falcon and the Winter Soldier for me. 3, I put What If, Eric. I enjoyed more episodes of What If than I did of Hawkeye. So I'll put What If at 3, Hawkeye at 4, and Loki would not be let into the building. Be turned away at the door, actually, because they were not on the list. They do not have an invitation.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate.
We'll leave them there. So
that was the show we were like most excited about.
It really was. It really was. Like, come on, Tom Hiddleston, and Owen Wilson. God, Owen Wilson tried so hard. I hope he comes back.
Yeah, I do too. But it was that's a good list. I really can't argue with that. Again, Hawkeye being 2, it could easily be 3 and even 4. I could totally see that. Yeah. Definitely not the worst one though. And I guess that is a win in itself, I guess.
Sure, I guess I'm sure that's what, Feige and all them are looking for, are going for there. So, but everybody, that is our last and final live stream of the year. I know, again, this is at a weird time. Eric and I are both busy later on in the day. So hopefully for those of you that came back and watched this as it's been posted, thank you so much. We appreciate you. Remember, for any of you first-time viewers that stumbled across this video, we are typically a podcast that you can find anywhere you listen to your shows, which of course includes Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, and shout out to Buzzsprout for hosting the show as well. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts, or if you find us an Apple Podcast and you leave us a 5-star review because you think we deserve it, we would really appreciate it. And on some platforms, you can also, or on some devices, you can also start rating podcasts on Spotify. So if you do that as well, we would greatly appreciate it. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Wait For It Podcast, and on Twitter at Wait For It Pod. Make sure to follow us specifically on that Instagram page, because within the next couple of days, you'll be seeing our full list of episodes for the month of January and beyond. But with that being said, Eric, we'll let everybody enjoy their new year. I hope you guys all have a safe and happy new year. Thank you guys for making 2021 a special year for this show. Eric, we got to talk about that, about the download numbers and Bold Matsuri and all that kind of stuff. It's been a hell of a ride, and we have some very big announcements for 2022 that are going to be coming soon. You guys will probably hear about them next month. So we have to give a shout out to everybody that made the podcast a big success and kept it moving in the right direction here.
Yeah, very much appreciated. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. We will continue doing live streams, and we'd like to improve this process too. We've gone ahead and done a lot of reviews. Again, you guys may remember for the beginning part of 2021, I believe this was exclusively a Wonder Woman 84 review channel because it was just that one review.
Eric's favorite movie.
My favorite movie.
If we had done an awards in 2020, in the year 2020, Eric definitely would have picked Wonder Woman 84.
Probably.
It was either that or Tenet.
Oh my God.
2020 was rough, man.
Such terrible experiences. But again, we've really kind of dished out a couple more reviews. We want to do some things other than just reviews. So if there's things that you guys want to see, leave them in the comments. But with all that being said, my name is Mr. Eric Almighty. That is my co-host, Phil the Filipino. And of course, we release new episodes on our podcast every Monday and Wednesday. And all you have to do is wait for it.
Mr. Eric Almighty and Phil the Filipino? Yeah, they've got you covered. And all you gotta do is wait for it. This is the Wait For It podcast.